Hello, this is Sara. Today we're spotlighting the resilience and leadership of Palestinian women in the face of displacement and occupation. To help us understand their struggles and how the international community can support them, me and my team, Tatiana and Cynthia, interviewed with experts such as Dr. Jasmine Lilian Diab, the director of the Institute for Migration Studies, Miriam Skier, who brings over 25 years of experience in women's rights, gender equality and teaching, and Rafah, a Palestinian refugee living in Marlies camp who works tirelessly to provide humanitarian assistance with her community.
Through these articles and the research that was conducted, we found out the need to do this segment about the humanitarian crisis because there are huge issues on the Palestinians. Our decision to highlight the impact of limited humanitarian aid on Palestinian women in Gaza stems from extensive research and alarming reports. Al Jazeera article They Scream in Hunger How Israel is Starving Palestinians in Gaza reveals the devastating impact of where the women and children are being affected by food shortages. Another report, War on Women, Health in Gaza, published by the UN Women, warns of the invisible tolls on over 177,000 women facing life-threatening health risks. Articles like What is Happening to Children and Pregnant Mothers in Gaza, and Right Now Nearly Every Person in Gaza is in need of humanitarian assistance, expose the condition where children and pregnant women bear the brunt of this crisis. These findings make it clear that addressing these critical gaps in aid is not just necessary but urgent, as the lives and rights of women in Gaza continue to hang in the balance.
I asked Dr. Jasmine 3 different questions. How does the ongoing occupation and displacement influence the migration patterns and lives of Palestinian women? In your research, have you encountered stories of Palestinian women's resilience and leadership that the world needs to hear? Third, what role can international organizations like the UN play in supporting Palestinian women who are migrants or refugees? Are there specific policy changes you believe are urgently needed? She said that the occupation and displacement of Palestinian women significantly impact their migration patterns and daily lives, limiting access to resources, services, and mobility. Displacement fragments families, forcing women into unfamiliar roles and complicating access to education, healthcare, and employment. Despite these challenges, Palestinian women have demonstrated resilience and leadership, spearheading communities' initiatives in refugee camps and creating informal education networks and healthcare services. Organizing cultural preservation efforts, passing down oral histories and traditional crafts, and leading protests, they challenge not only the systems of occupation but also traditional gender roles, demonstrating both personal and collective resilience. International organizations like the UN play a crucial role in amplifying the voices of Palestinian women and ensuring their protections. Policy-wise, there is a need to address gender-based violence in refugee settings, ensure access to sexual and reproductive health services, and empower Palestinian women in decision-making. The international community must also pressure Israel to comply with international law and work with solidarity campaigns to ensure Palestinian women's stories are heard globally. Hi, so I want to ask you a question. According to an expert, Palestinian women often have to take care of their families alone because of displacement. So how do you think this affects their lives?
Okay, so basically taking care of households, of children, and sometimes elderly individuals can be very stressful, having a huge impact on their psychological and emotional strains, especially having this loss of support systems. It must be really hard on them trying to provide support for their families.
Hello. So I want to ask you a question. According to an expert, Palestinian women often have to take care of their families alone because of displacement. So how do you think this affects their lives?
It affects in many ways, especially economically. After the war that's happening, there's not enough jobs that they can do, especially that they're displaced. They won't be able to take care of the children at the same time going to do jobs. Many men from different families have left their houses to fight the war, leaving the women alone and just taking care of their children and not being able to be stable economically.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions. First, the expert talked about the Palestinian women lead and stay strong even in tough times. So have you heard any stories like that? What do you think about that?
I didn't hear any stories, but I believe Palestinian women, yeah, this alone 78 years facing this. I think they عندهم كتير believe in God with their religion حسب مين هي. فمشان هيك they are still going strong وعم يبنوا new generations اللي يقوون بعد. I think they are way stronger من Israelis. شو
Okay, the second question is, the expert said groups like the UN need to do more to help Palestinian women. Do you think they're doing enough? What else should they do?
they aren't doing it. They aren't doing enough. I think it's clear that لأن even حتى بالشباب وبالجوبن مش عم يعملوا شيء. بس I think كwomen wise أبدا زيرو بالمرة. They are not helping بالمرة. لا دعم ولا support mentally ولا شيء. فتركينهم. No, I don't think اليوم عم يعملوا شيء صراحة.
Okay, so I have a question for you. The expert talked about how Palestinian women lead and stay strong even in tough times. So have you heard any stories like that? What do you think about them?
I think women in Palestine don't get their basic needs. They don't get the female products. They don't get funding enough to be able to live. And basically, they show a great resilience because they share their stories. They just help without getting anything. They're also very underfunded. Like the UN isn't funding enough. It isn't doing the actual work it needs to be doing. So they aren't able to live how they should.
The expert said groups like the UN need to do more to help Palestinian women. Do you think they're doing enough? What else should they do?
أول شيء إذا بدنا نحكي عن موضوع المرأة، أول شيء شو عم يعملوا؟ هاي واحد، اثنين إذا بس عم بيعملوا البيسك نيدز للمرأة مثلا the health needs for a woman for every month, that's not enough. مثل ما الشبيبة عندهم كذا شغل لازم تتعملوا البنات لازم يتعملوا نفس الشيء. غير عن هيك نحن فايتين على جيل جديد، غير انه بدي اطلع بالمرأة يطلع تطعيم الاولاد، اطلع بموضوع الامومة، بدي اطلع بكذا شغلة لها علاقة بالمرأة، وانا برأيي انه لو شو ما يعملوا منن عم يعملوا انف. بس يعملوا انف هي يعملوا سيس فاير بغزة وما يعودوا عم يعتدوا على الشعب الفلسطيني إن كان رجال نسوان ولا اولاد ولا ختان.
The first question is, what are the specific challenges women in Gaza face accessing basic needs such as food, water, and shelter? The second question is, how the crisis affect women access to reproductive health services, including parental and postnatal care? The third question is, what legal protections exist in Gaza and how are they enforced during times of genocide?
In light of the genocide that's unfolding in Gaza, women are mostly affected. There is absence of safety and absence of places where they can live. They cannot access food, and as we are seeing, people are queuing to get food, and as we might well know, women prioritize other members of their family instead of eating themselves. Also, the lack in terms of the availability of water, clean drinking water, etc. So definitely the situation is very dire. Access to menstrual hygiene and menstrual hygiene management kits, and access to soap and other basic needs that basically preserve the dignity of women is not there. So basically women in Gaza, just like all populations in Gaza, are being starved and are being basically are robbed of their human rights and their humanity. Statistics from the UN show that around 183 women deliver every day with no anesthesia whatsoever, and around 155,000 women who are delivering not within the context of hospitals, and this their health is at risk simply because of the fact that there is no medical intervention while they're delivering. The situation of women in Gaza is very dire, especially when it comes to their sexual and reproductive health and rights. There is absence of menstrual hygiene kits. Women who are pregnant do not have access to medical facilities simply because they are mostly demolished or out of service. So many women in Gaza are basically delivering not within the context of hospitals, with no anesthesia. There is no pre or post natal care for these children. In fact, statistics shows that around more than 700,000 women and girls do not have access to menstrual hygiene kits and products, and that is basically creating a huge issue in terms of their cleanliness, their health, and their dignity. In times of genocide, I don't think there are any legal protections for women or men or anyone. Women are being detained and incarcerated with no trial. They are being tortured. They are being sexually harassed. They are being raped. Women basically and men face dark consequences as a result of the apartheid state that is basically robbing them of all human rights, and so women suffer a lot, and there is no way of applying legal measures.
مرحبا، هلأ صرنا للمقابلة اللي أنا عملتها مع رفح هي لاجئة فلسطينية بتعيش بالمخيمات بمارليج، بتقدم كل الاحتياجات الإنسانية لهذا المخيم. فأنا طرحت عليها هول 3 أسئلة يلي هن: من واقع خبرتك كعاملة في المجال الإنساني، ما هي الاحتياجات الأكثر مطلوبة لسكان غزة حاليا؟ وكيف يمكن تعبئة المساعدات الدولية بشكل أكثر فعال لتلبية هذه الاحتياجات؟ السؤال الثاني: كيف أعادت حرب غزة المستمرة تشكيل دور النساء داخل مجتمعاتهم؟ بأي طرق تصبح النساء وكلاء للمقاومة والصمود؟ وكيف مهاجمة العنف المنهجي والحرمان؟ السؤال الأخير هو: ما هو الدور الذي تعتقدين أن التغطية الإعلامية تلعبه في تشكيل تصورات العالم حول الأزمة الإنسانية في غزة؟ وكيف يمكننا مواجهة الروايات المنحازة لتحفير العمل الفاعل؟
هلا من وقت خبرتي أنا كعاملة اجتماعية وكعاملة في المجال الإنساني، أكتر شيء بحاجة لإله هلا سكان غزة هو الغذاء، المي، التدفئة. هلا أهم شيء التدفئة. وهلا المساعدات الدولية بحس إنه ما رح تكون كتير فعالة، لأنه ساعات في حصار كتير على غزة كتير كبير، مش رح يكونوا أصلا عم يقدروا إنه يكونوا عم يغطوا التغطية الفعالة لهاي الاحتياجات، وخاصة احتياجات مثل ما قلنا المي، الغذاء. تمام، يعني هيدي كتير 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 صعبة إنها تكون أصلا عم توصل لهم. وخاصة كمان التدفئة، يعني هلأ بدهم مثلا مازوت، بدهم تياب لتدفيهم، فكتير كتير كتير صعبة، كتير صعبة. وخاصة كمان في احتياجات أصلا للمرأة والصبايا كتير هي بأمس الحاجة لإلها، خاصة هلأ بهيدي الفترة والأزمة اللي نحن فيها بغزة. كتغطية إعلامية بحس إنه بس عن طريق التليفونات، عن طريق التواصل مع بعض الأشخاص اللي هن عم توفر عندنا الإنترنت مش عند الكل. نحن كثير بغياب أصلا التغطية الإعلامية، وخاصة لكتير قنوات ومنها قناة الجزيرة لأنه سكروها لفترة محدودة، وكتير يعني غاب عنها كتير قصص. هلا عم بتكون عبر الإنترنت عم نشوف شو القصص يعني اللي عم بتصير بقلب غزة، يعني عن طريق أشخاص معينين. بس كيف فينا إنه نواجه هاي الروايات المنحازة تحفيز العمل الفعال؟ ما فينا نكون، لأنه نحن عن جد كتير كتير بوضع كتير مزري، كتير محصورين بسبب العدو شو عم يعمل. حتى التغطية الإعلامية كتير عم بخلينا إنه ما نغطي تغطية إعلامية في كتير قصص غايبة. يعني مثلا مثل امبارح قد ايه هالبرد واللي صار، في كتير أشخاص مثلا ملت خيامها من المي، إحنا ما عرفنا فيها إلا عن طريق التليفونات والإنترنت والإنستغرام تيك توك. أكتر من هيك نحن أصلا مش عم نعرف كواقع أخبار. هو ما مش عم يرجينا غير القصص يلي نحن عن جد عم نشوف العدو شو عم يعمل، بس هن كأشخاص شو عم بيعانوا. كتير صعبة، كتير 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 صعبة بصراحة. الحرب ما أعجز تشكيل دور النساء داخل مجتمعاتهم، لا. هلأ كتير في غياب لدور النساء في المجتمع الفلسطيني وخاصة بغزة، لأنه المرأة هي زي ما بيقولوا عم تكون مقاومة، عم تكون صامدة، هي اللي عم تقوم بدور والأم بس. اليوم المرأة عم بتكون الفلسطينية هي عن جد عن جد وكيلة للمقاومة والصمود قدام ولادها اللي عم تفقدهم. هي أول شي قدام ولادها اللي عم بتكون صامدة إنه أنا كرمالهم بدي أعمل كل شي، بدي أجيب لهم مي، بدي أجيب لهم غذاء، بدي أدفع دم مثل ما بيقولوا دم قلبي كرمال طعميهم. هيك عم تكون وكالة المقاومة والصمود، وعم تقدر إنها تكون إنسانة عن جد قوية ضد العنف المنهج والحرمان. أوكي هي عم توقف ضد كل شي كرمال هي ما تحرم أولادها، كرمال تكون سند لجوزها، للمقاومة بقلب غزة، لتوقف بوجه العدو. عم بتكون كمان ما بعرف أكيد احتمال كتير كبير إنه عم تكون هي عم تتعرض للعنف حتى بظل هالوقت، بس رغم ظل هالوقت هي بتقاوم، عم بتقاوم كرمال ولادها وكرمال تضلها قوية وكرمال ما تحرم ولادها من أي شي تاني.
As we've heard, the ongoing challenges faced by Palestinian women are immense, yet their resilience and leadership remain an enduring source of hope. It's vital to continue amplifying their voices and sharing their stories to ensure their struggles and triumphs are not forgotten. Thank you for being with us today as we explored these critical insights.